Welcome to another episode of Let's Go. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I wanted to give you a little bit of background on our series. We started when the pandemic hit with some CEO forums that we built to help our CEO peers, entrepreneurial peers, get through the pandemic together and learn and exchange ideas. We shifted then to, or we kept that going, but we also went with a video series we called Survival and Thrival. And the idea was to help entrepreneurs not only survive the pandemic, but come out of it stronger, make the right moves with the right mindset. Now, over the last 3 months, we've shifted completely to a let's go mentality, which is it's no longer about survival. Now it's about how can we, there's no excuses. We've got to find a way to make it happen. So let's go. So that's the theory and the mentality. Today, we're coming up our last episode of our Traction Rocket Fuel EOS series. For those of you who followed along, we've had Mark Winters, who is the co-author of Rocket Fuel. We've had Mark O'Donnell, who is the visionary for EOS Worldwide. We've had Damon Neth, who's an implementer of EOS. We've also had Cisco Sakasa, who happens to be my integrator at HireBetter. And today we are blessed with Kelly Knight, who is the integrator for EOS Worldwide. We'll get into all of those definitions of what integrator, implementer, all that stuff means throughout the episode. We've had lots of positive feedback on things so far, so we're looking forward to another great episode today. Kelly Knight is joining me. Kelly is a Michigan grad. She is an expert at building teams, and she has been able to find and grow other talented people to guide them to reach their full potential. She previously spent 20 years in the financial services industry, managing and leading dynamic organizations. I'm sure, as most of us entrepreneurs know, all of our organizations are dynamic, so I want to dig into what that means. And she's been the integrator for EOS Worldwide since 2016. So a little bit of background on that what I mentioned before. The integrator role should not be confused with the EOS implementer. As integrator, Kelly unites the major functions of the business, driving accountability and obsessing about organizational clarity. Her gift is leading with positivity and heart, and she has a passion for uniting teams. One last bit on Kelly before we fully get to her is today she is driving EOS's international expansion, as well as growing the EOS community domestically with people that are passionate about helping entrepreneurs get what they want from their business. Kelly, I really appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, Kurt, it is a real pleasure. And congratulations for doing Let's Go. What a great theme. I mean, if there were ever a year to put pedal to the metal and do Let's Go, now is it. So thank you for inspiring others and creating a platform to have everybody learn and grow together.
Well, I appreciate that, Kelly. And a little bit of background, I'm an introvert at heart. So for me to step out and do this has been a major deal. So for all of you out there, this is the opportunity to step out and do something you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I watched the podcast you did with Mark O'Donnell. You did great. Looking forward to being here today.
Awesome. Well, on that note, we did talk with Mark a few weeks ago, so we'll build off that. But I do want to set the stage a bit. I talked a little bit about we're going to define some terms. So let's start with a little bit about EOS. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. I'd also like to talk about the Visionary and Integrator relationship. So let's start by defining those. Would you mind telling us a little bit about EOS, and we'll go from there?
Sure. So EOS, as you said, stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it's a practical, simple set of tools and a process to help entrepreneurs and their leadership teams get what they want from their business at its core. But if I had it to put it in the spirit of EOS, it's really channeling human energy, as Gino Wickman defined. He's the founder, creator of everything EOS that we see in the world today. And so that's what we do. We take EOS to help teams. We end up changing the world. I really believe it in my heart of hearts to help people just work better together personally and professionally. So that's in a nutshell what I'd say EOS is. And EOS is comprised at the heart of our business model are implementers or business coaches that help these entrepreneurial teams get what they want from their business, teaching the tools, teaching the process, teaching the EOS model. And so implementers are extraordinary human beings that come with batteries included. They have entrepreneurial experience, and they're very talented human beings that could do anything they wanted in the world, and they've chosen to be an EOS implementer, to be part of making an impact in the world. And the core values alignment of our community, what makes us really special or implementers special, is they're humbly confident and help first and do the right thing, and their spirit is just truly amazing. The most beautiful organization of people I've ever had the privilege to work with. So that's an implementer.
Wow. That's a lot of that you just said there about your own team. So I'm glad to hear that love that you have for them and the passion. So tell me about what an integrator and a visionary are.
Right. So visionary and integrator, they're dynamic duos. They're sort of opposites in many different ways, but it's the yin and the yang, really the beautiful, powerful rocket fuel combination that you see when you read the book Rocket Fuel by Mark Winters and Gino Wickman. And so a visionary, we'll start with the visionary. The visionary is the person who has seen 100 steps ahead, around corners, getting a global view of what's happening in the world and seeing how what we do in our organization plays in that space. Big ideas and big relationships and the culture of the organization belong to the visionary. And many are good at R&D, research and development, kind of being in the workshop and tinkering around and trying some things and testing and failing and testing and winning and driving, this vision forward, helping people to see what it looks like on a VTO or vision traction organizer is the tool we use to communicate all of these big ideas and to get people rowing in the same direction. So big ideas, big relationships, those are some of the things. And also face of the company. So doing things like this are often part of a visionary's PR and face of the company and promotion. Integrators sometimes do it from time to time, but largely that's Mark O'Donnell that you'll see doing that. Integrators, in contrast, really take the visionary's ideas and make them reality, make them so. We also filter out ideas that we don't think maybe will work so well. So we have to handpick those that are the best ideas and really hyper focus on executing on those well. So an integrator harmoniously integrates the functions of the organization. The leadership team members report to the integrator and the integrator to the visionary. And a traditional company, a visionary would be called a CEO. An integrator would be maybe president or COO or chief of staff. We just happen to not use titles or like them here at EOS. And then an integrator also is responsible for the results of the organization, the P&L, making sure that we are leading and managing with accountability. We call that LMA here at EOS. And a big part of our job, too, is getting folks unstuck or preventing people from getting stuck so that we're moving together better than ever.
I love it. So guys, Kelly just saved you about $60 in reading in about 4 hours. She quoted you what's going on in Traction. So all this is laid out in Gino Wickman's book, Traction, which is the basis for EOS Worldwide. There's also one for simple people like me called What the Heck is EOS, which is a much simpler read. And then lastly, my favorite book is called Rocket Fuel, which is really for me, it was all about the relationship between the visionary and the integrator. It allowed me to be who I am, which is definitely more on the visionary tendency, and allowed me to just accept that I'm not a good integrator, and that's okay. So, in fact, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, Kelly, if you don't mind. People don't dream, when they're a child about being an integrator. And I would say there's no integrator school, although I know there's now some things that we can do at Rocket Fuel now. But tell me a little bit about how you realized that you were an integrator, and what was the aha moment for you?
Right. Well, it's a really great question because you're right. Maybe someday there will be something at the university that even younger adults take. But of course, Rocket Fuel University that Mark Winters has is really exceptional. So for anybody who thinks they might be an integrator, please do check that out. He's awesome. So for me, my aha moment knowing that I was an integrator was when I was hired to be an integrator, ironically. So everything I've ever done my entire professional career led me to become an integrator, but I never could have planned it, never could have even known it, was not familiar with EOS, did not run a prior organization on EOS, had not worked with an EOS implementer before, but had been outreached in 2016 by a recruiter and was interested and compelled enough to just listen to the story of EOS. And hearing the story through him, I was inspired and followed that process. And a couple thousand candidates later, somehow I got lucky enough to be in this seat. So I'm super grateful that choice was made. But, it's just, I would say my background is very jack of all trades. Honestly, if you look at it and on paper, it might not look like the perfect fit for EOS because it had nothing to do with leadership training and coaching. But the parallels between what I did in the financial industry, working with advisors and their clients, was very similar to that of having implementers and their clients. And so when did I know? When I showed up. Fortunately, Gino and Don and Peyton, who were all part of the interview process, they saw something in me that led them to believe that that would be a good fit, but I never would have known it.
Well, I want to get into a little bit later about the industry and how not having the specific industry didn't hurt you or actually may help you. But I want to comment a little bit on the integrator role. We mentioned we can go to rocketfuelnow.com, which is where there's some tests you can take to see where you might end up on the Visionary Integrator scale. There's also some tools if you wanted to do some classes on improving some skills in some of those areas. But I want to comment on 3 people in my past that it may resonate with some of you folks out there. First of all, Cisco Sakasa, who's my integrator at HireBetter. He had never heard the term before until we started digging into it a few years ago, after he joined me actually as my COO. And then he's like, Kurt, this is exactly what I've been doing for years, just not with that title and not with the structure of EOS. So it was an eye-opening for him to say, hey, there's a lot of other people out there like me, which was fun. The other 2, a little more personal. One is my dad, who was absolutely a visionary, but he insisted on trying to do things himself and trying to be the integrator. And he never came to a point in his life where he realized that he's not an integrator. So he just struggled a lot, candidly, as an entrepreneur trying to do both. And so what I've seen with my career is I want to compliment myself with somebody who does those things better than me to free me up to do the things that I do well. And then lastly, a good friend of mine, Craig, who's been working for 25 years as an entrepreneur, again, trying to run both those roles. And he realized about a year ago with my help that he is an operator, he is an integrator, and he's not a visionary. And so he needs to partner, much like you have, with a visionary. So I'll pause there after word vomiting on you and let you comment on any of what you just heard.
First of all, I love that you have some great examples that have helped you to guide your path with Cisco. Without that, you might not have had that perspective. What it struck in me, though, when you mentioned your stories, is how my dad was a visionary, like a true entrepreneurial visionary. And it's where he was my first visionary love, right, as your dad. And so I got to experience all of the fun and creative thinking that he had. And while I didn't have those gifts, not in the same way, it's where I think fundamentally started. Where is the root of where it all started on the journey is that I was always curious and always wanted to learn from visionaries and partner with them. And so all along my journey in 20 years of being in business, always kind of was attracted to visionaries. And so it is interesting how your past obviously becomes part of your future. And so for those that I think start early with a visionary somewhere in their lives, parents, siblings, aunts or uncles, I think that is often kind of where that spark is generated. You just fall in love with it.
Wow, it's so important. And I love how you said you fall in love with visionaries. You want to be the counterbalance. You want to be the partner with those visionaries. So let's talk about that for a bit. You've worked with 4 visionaries just at EOS Worldwide. Presumably you've worked with some other visionaries in your past life. Talk to me about some of the lessons that you've learned and perhaps some attributes of each of them that you've appreciated or struggled with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've worked with 11 visionaries over time. So that's my history. But here at EOS, I have been so blessed. First of all, at the time I was hired, I had the trifecta of 3 amazing visionaries. So Gino Wickman, again, the founder, creator of everything EOS. Don Tinney, who was his partner, the original integrator for EOS Worldwide, but truthfully, a visionary of his own right. He filled that seat because it was the startup of the organization. And the third is Mike Peyton, who was the long-standing certified EOS implementer right behind Don Tinney coming into the community as an implementer who had taken over the reins about a year or so before I came on board. So I was hired to be Mike Peyton's missing puzzle piece. So 3 great guys. And then now today I work with Mark O'Donnell. Mike Peyton went back to working full-time in his implementer business, but a little bit about each of the 4 of them. So things I've learned and appreciated from, and they're all 4 extremely different. Gino Wickman really taught me everything entrepreneurial. I have some entrepreneurial roots having done a startup, but he really gave me the foundation, the purity, and the mastery of the understanding of EOS. So talk about mentorship on steroids. It's just been incredible. What an awesome experience. He taught me a lot of discipline around simplicity and essentialism, and something that he coined tidy bow. And that means anytime we do anything, we have to put a tidy bow on it, meaning communications to all stakeholders, making sure we're really getting to the root of issues and solving them permanently, not just putting a Band-Aid on surface level issues. And so there's so many gifts. I couldn't even begin to list them all. We could do a whole segment on just Gino Wickman, but those are some of the highlights that I've gotten from him. And also to be tough, sometimes in business, it's not all roses and rainbows and lollipops. And I think he's taught me that you kind of just being a little tougher, having the grit when you need to, and knowing when to differentiate between that and the kindness that comes with leading teams too. Don Tinney, his business partner, the original integrator, is wise beyond words. He's like Yoda. It's like sitting with Yoda. Sorry, Star Wars fans, you understand this, but he's just the most gentle, kind, patient soul, the kind of person that helps you see how to rise above it, how to serve the greater good, how to see how the personal connections are going to work. And he always has a grain of wisdom that nobody else will have. You know, how you go to your people whose opinions you value. Don always has that one beautiful golden nugget that makes it right. So a huge gratitude to him as well. And then Mike Payton, who was my visionary for about 4 years before he stepped down. He is the most masterful communicator ever, verbally and in writing. So the gift of just learning from him how to really strike the balance of hitting the message right and making sure that people really understand the context of why decisions are made or what we're doing. He is very empathetic kind of person too. So just a really good guy who I've learned so much from. And he also, like Gino, really helped teach me EOS because it's years of learning. It's a very simple system, but it goes so deep. It takes years to really learn it. And then last and certainly not least is Mark O'Donnell, who is my visionary counterpart or business partner today. And he's been in the seat about 5 months. Really cool thing about Mark is he's that tinkerer visionary I was talking about. He loves to be in the workshop and try building stuff and trying it and experimenting and the kind of coming back and collaborating with now what do we do about it? So that's been really a joy to watch, like very different experience, but so fun. And he's brilliant with technology and digital. And so anyway, across all 4 of these visionaries, you can see just the different flavors and how I couldn't pick a favorite. I've been asked before, by the way, but you can't. It's like the best of the best. I love them all.
Well, I like how all of them can't fit in a box or all have their own strengths and weaknesses. And that's what makes us all human. Hey, let me go back to the episode that I had with Mark O'Donnell a few weeks ago. One of the things that he mentioned was, it'll be a generalization, so it's not actually true, but it's generally true. Most visionaries are understand and are fairly strong at leadership, but we typically struggle with management. And I know you guys have the LMA, leadership management accountability attributes. Tell me a little bit about what have you seen and what makes integrators so much stronger with management, and perhaps some visionaries struggle with management.
Right. Well, I've said in integrator groups many a time, please don't become an integrator if you don't love people, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's where you're going to spend your time. So integrators spend much of their time with the leadership team, as I was saying, harmoniously integrating those functions. And so what integrators tend to like a lot more than visionaries is that day-to-day pulse of really working through the progress on the execution and also having those difficult conversations. So we're the ones doing quarterly conversations with the team, talking through the people analyzer. Where is there the core values match? The GWC, the get it, want it, and capacity we talk about is either a yes or a no. And guess what? When it's a no, it's a difficult conversation because we can't leave it at a no. So visionaries like to set the vision and the culture and talk in big strokes and get people excited and move us forward in the spirit. But the day-to-day is really kind of tough because it can be tedious sometimes. I happen to love it. I revel in it. I love spending time with the team. It would probably be a little tedious at the level that I do it for Mark to do it. But that's my experience.
Hey, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk a little bit about 2020. And I know it's been a shit show in so many ways, but there have been some good things that come out of it. What are some of the things that 2020 has taught you as a leader?
Well, it's taught me, the Stockdale paradox, that you have to acknowledge the brutal reality of today while at the same time having the hope for the future and painting that picture and being real about it. So with our community of implementers and our EOS Worldwide team, it was a moment in March, pandemic hits. Our company is rowing to stay alive. Suddenly our weekly L10 becomes a daily war room meeting, which is not part of EOS, but in times of crisis, you do what works and what will, feed the community. And so, what did we do? We united as a community. We learn what our strengths and weaknesses are pretty quick, because all you can do is focus on what's most important. All the other things have to fall by the wayside because you're rowing to move the company forward. So candidly, the bulk of our revenue was at stake as an organization. Our implementers, who typically meet around a table face to face, eyeball to eyeball, suddenly had to overnight move their business to a virtual capability. Their session rooms had to become virtual using the technology that we're using on today, whether it be, ring lights and all the different Zoom technologies, et cetera. So, what we learned is that we just have to get up and go, face the news, communicate it clearly, come up with a plan, work the plan, keep pivoting that plan, what's working, what's not working, and just lean in on the community. And then the second part is, there's nothing like a good crisis to make you hit the gas pedal, because you're given a lot of grace to innovate and try things, even if it doesn't work, because it's driving us forward to take on new capabilities and have a bigger, brighter future. So that's what we did. We took what was in our 3-year picture in our VTO and we said, okay, we're going to do that now. It's no more 3 years, it's now. So your Let's Go theme, Kurt, it really applies to us at EOS. It was just, come on, let's go. This is the brutal reality, but we can do it. We're going to survive with our core business, and we're going to build the future of EOS.
So let me ask you a couple of other topics, personal things. The first one is, just so we can get to know you a little bit better personally, tell us one thing about you that we wouldn't know from reading your LinkedIn profile.
Well, I am a water person, and I don't just mean that my sign is Cancer, being that I have a July birthday. I just mean I love all things water. I was fortunate to grow up on a lake, so some of my best memories and best life experiences were on the water, in the water, or next to water. So every opportunity I get, I look to go swimming or boating or kayaking or whatnot. I love the water.
All right, thanks. Now, I know your hometown is Clarkston, Michigan. So tell us, what makes your mac and cheese world famous? Why is mac and cheese Clarkston the home of mac and cheese?
Right. So at our planning call for this episode, Garrett was on the line and we were riffing about, well, where is Clarkston? What is it known for? And I said, well, it's this little tiny town about an hour north of Detroit. And it wouldn't be noteworthy necessarily for anything if not for the most macked mac and cheese by the Clarkston Union, which is a restaurant on our way. And so what makes that the most great mac and cheese? Well, it has a crust. It has a really nice sprinkled crust that's crunchy. So the texture is really good and the flavors are really just very robust, I think, for a mac and cheese is the way I'll describe it. And then underneath the crust is the creamy mac and cheese there's 4 different cheeses in it. And it comes in a carafe. And so the edges are crispy and crunchy like a pizza. So anyway, it's really good. It's on the New York Times best food list for mac and cheese. Anybody who wants to look it up. And if anybody comes to Michigan near Clarkston, flag me. I'll go with you for some mac and cheese.
I think I heard Kelly will buy you mac and cheese when you're in Clarkston.
Yes, I will. I will buy anybody on your podcast your mac and cheese.
Perfect. Kelly, I'd like to try something new. I'd like to go through 5 quick rapid fire questions with you and have you answer them, and we'll go from there. See how it goes. Number 1, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. Number 1, how can you be a good integrator for an organization even if you don't have experience in that specific industry?
You can when you really are able to do what's in the integrator seat. So it transcends industry, so long as you can do what's needed within the seat, as we've described it in rocket fuel, and you're the right fit for the visionary and the organization. You have the GWC, you believe in the shared vision, all things are possible. So it transcends industry.
So my next question, you just made me think of it. What the hell is GWC?
So GWC stands for get it, want it, and have capacity. Definitely read up on it in the book Traction. But get it just means like your God-given talent. You were born to do this work, essentially. Want it quite literally means you want that seat, not just to be on the bus of the organization as a whole, but you want that seat. I want the integrator seat. I love that seat. I want to do it. And then capacity is really the only thing that's going to sometimes change over time. It's having the ability to do it. It could be time, energy, capacity. Sometimes learning some skills. It can be a no because you're rising up and hitting the ceiling. You could be a no in GWC for one quarter in a row as it's taught. And then beyond that probably means that the seat's outgrown you or something. So every quarter we do a people analyzer, and the GWC is assessed with your manager along with core values. And core values are a plus, minus, minus. And so the combination of core values and GWC help assess how well that person is capable of doing the seat and being on the bus.
Great. What do you love most about being an integrator?
I'd love just the ability in an entrepreneurial organization to make change and to impact the world in a meaningful way, especially here at EOS. And I love working with people. And our people are just so great. So I'm so blessed to work with our worldwide team and community of implementers. It's the most wonderful, holistically positive group of people I've ever had the privilege to work with. So it's got to be the people and the mission and the impact.
Where is EOS Worldwide headed?
Well, we talked about some of it, but really the digital transformation is huge. It's able to take what's been in a paper-based binder world and take it to a digital format that can reach all corners of the world. So we can really move faster in helping any entrepreneur anywhere in the world benefit from the learnings, the teaching, the tools, and process of EOS. That's really big. We're continuing to expand internationally as demand accounts for it. A little different, obviously, with doing it virtually versus having physical launches in regions like Europe. But we did recently just launch in London, which is really nice to see. So our community leaders, Dean and Alexander, are doing a great job there. And then we have a rebranding project. So that's just part of really the consistency, upgrading our look and feel and having that more international feel so that the brand transcends beyond the United States, which is where we started. So those are some biggies.
You've partnered with over 11 visionaries directly, and you probably worked with hundreds of others indirectly. On average, out of the 100 ideas that they bring to you, how many are rock solid that you want to implement, and how many are pie in the sky BS ideas?
Well, it's a trick question, actually, because some visionaries will think it through and filter through their own ideas before I hear about them, and some will just tell me everything. So it depends based on that volume, but it's anywhere from 10 to 40%, right? Depending upon which visionary I'm talking to.
That was a tactful way of saying that there's some crazy visionaries she's worked with. All right, let's see.
All good.
Hey, Kelly, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just say, Kurt, keep going. This is so great what you're building and how you're sharing your voice and your ideas and your platform with others. Even if it started off you feeling a little uncomfortable, you're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable yourself. And that in and of itself is a great thing to showcase because we all need to be there too. It's just putting ourselves out there, taking some risks, trying some new things. And so I wish you all the best with what you're building.
Man, I love it. Thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate you joining me today. I love what you guys are doing to help the entrepreneurial community. You're doing amazing work. Keep it up. And for all of you out there, thank you for joining us today. We've got another episode next week. We're going to have Ed Curtis, who is the founder of Why Texas, who's going to be talking a little bit about why so many companies and entrepreneurs are moving to Texas. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation. So until then, no excuses and let's go.